Damn, you jumped in with both feet, James.
Say what?
I usually nothing. How you doing tonight, bro?
I thought you were here already.
Huh?
I
was here, but I was just letting the ambience fill.
Can you hear me good? Am I clear? Loud? Am I clear?
No, you're kind of muffled, actually. No.
All right. The phone was in.
Wasn't Geechee gonna send you a mic?
Man, look, I still ain't heard from Geechee about that mic. Do I sound better now? Is that better?
Yeah. Oh, and I got the music. I got the ambience. Hold on, let me turn down the background music. Sorry about that. Say something now.
What up, chat?
Oh, yeah, it's a little better. Yep.
Okay. Brittany said I'm cutting
in and out with the headphones. I
need to cut this fan off.
We don't want you sweating.
No, I'm good.
We got a lot of sisters that watch the show, and we don't want them distracted. Your shirt gets sweaty, and then your muscles start rippling. I want to keep this show for the, proper focus.
Man, they ain't watching. They ain't watching for that.
I know, and we want to make and keep that energy. I just don't want to leave the fan on if you're gonna be there, beads of sweat like that. See, it's already started.
I don't think they would be distracted, but I could cut it
out.
I
don't want to remake that D'Angelo video. You already come with your shape up. I see you got your shape up. You didn't tell me, so I could have went and did something with mine.
Man, I keep mine. You know what I'm saying? I keep mine lined up.
Okay, fine. It's not a competition.
You know what I mean? No, I got clippers, man. I've been doing this for.
You do yourself? You did that to yourself?
I've been doing myself for the past few years, man. I got tired of going to the barber shop.
You've been single for a minute. Okay. Yeah.
Even when I was, you know what I'm saying? Even when I was in a relationship, I would still go to the barbershop regularly. You know? I just always kept myself
that looks
groomed,
professional.
Man.
That looks mad professional. I do my stuff too, but I don't feel like I have to say it.
I'd have had enough practice at it, you know what I'm saying?
But I cut my own shit, my whole shit.
Yeah, man, I don't like waiting in line, man. Like, you go to the barbershop and shit, man, they tell you to come in a certain time, then you got to waiting the extra 15, 20, 30 minutes, man. They don't know what you got going on, man.
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school, man, I used to go to the barbershop. But then when I went to college, I got my dreads. So I stopped going to the barbershop. And then, genetics kicked in. And so I had to cut my hair, and I just started cutting from there. And I let go of vanity. Once my higher level thinking took over, I let go of all that vanity. So.
Hey, man, look, at my wildest point, man, it don't even matter, man. You know what I'm saying? It don't even matter, man. I was somewhere looking wild as hell, hair all unbraided. You know,
Word.
Still, I was locked up, man.
Your emo phase.
Well, you know what I'm saying? When they take you through receiving, they make you take all your braids and shit down. So I had to take all my braids down. I hadn't shaved for a couple of weeks. And one of the security guards was flirting with me, man. You know what I'm saying? So, it don't even matter, man.
A female security guard?
Yeah, she was fine too. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
I remember her name.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. I worked at Rikers Island for several years, and it was a lot of indiscretions. So I could see that. And one day I was working at Rikers, and there was a lockdown in the facility because on Rikers, there's actually a female jail because Rikers is not one jail. It's a series of jails, juvenile facility, a women's facility, and several men's facility. There's a hospital. That's where I worked at. They have a full service hospital there. And you have to go in through the main gate, and then you have to take a shuttle bus if you don't have like auto access to the facilities. And one CO came in there with 2 guns and a woman's correctional office uniform because he had fallen in love with one of the female inmates. and brought her a uniform and a badge and everything. And he was going to go in, take her out of her cell, have her dress up, and then walk right out through the main gate. And they caught him.
See, yeah, man. No, man. Look, my shit was petty, man. You know what I'm saying? I was leaving, man. I wasn't finna do nothing to keep myself up in there, man.
Yeah. Well,
I'm getting up out of there. But you know, she used to bring me grape juices and shit in the morning.
Yeah, that's inappropriate. You could have her. You could snitch. At the very least, the ethics violation. One more CO because COs ain't whoa. Anyway, how was your week, man?
Huh?
How was your week?
It was long, man. I've been doing overtime, you know what I'm saying, this week. And today, you know, they let us go early because they found some carbon monoxide in the building. So they let us go this morning. So
really?
Actually,
I'm surprised they're doing that.
Huh?
Y'all got OSHA where you work?
Yeah. And I don't know. Well, I think the lead from second shift, I think she didn't show up. And to be honest, I don't really know how they got tipped off, but I think some people ended up sick and they was complaining. So they just did a carbon monoxide check today and they found some in the building. But you know, forklifts emit a little bit of carbon monoxide, but I guess
a little bit. It's an internal combustion engine, right?
Yeah. So they let us go early, man. So I didn't pretty much really had the whole day off. I didn't took a nap and shit, man. I didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Why didn't you holler at me?
Shit, man, because you know, I still got my little, you know, domestic responsibilities around here.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? I picked my
I was out. I was on a construction site today. Well, I was in the basement of this construction site and they were like running wires and stuff, and it got in my throat. My throat has been irritating me all day. But I mean, I guess people don't want to hear about my struggles. I don't think nobody care about me.
Everybody got their own problems, man.
Yeah, everybody got their problems. But yeah, I put extra little soothing ointments.
But we on the screen right now, so you're gonna hear about ours now. So that's just the way it is.
But damn, man, next time you come in with the shape up, you can holler. Oh, let me see that. Lean back again.
Yeah,
that. You got the Middle East on there?
Is that the Middle East?
Yeah. You got Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and you know, they say that was all of Africa before the Arab invaders.
I wouldn't doubt we.
But I ain't gonna get into it. I'm somewhat surprised to see that map included because historically, geographically, it's appropriate, but culturally, racially,
yeah.
And I know people want to pretend, huh?
I think we probably colonized that area for a little bit.
We colonized?
Just moving around, you know what I mean? Wasn't Kush like a big, wasn't just Kush extended beyond Africa, right? So,
yeah. That's an interesting map of Africa. I know Bobby E. Wright, you know, did not like the term Middle East. Mm-hmm. He said that that's all African land. The so-called Middle East is also colonized land. And he is on record saying that to see Arabs as anything other than white invaders is a pathological denial of history. I had a brother that went to Egypt, and he was so excited, and he was going to Egypt, and I was like, okay, you know, I'm happy for you. And when he got back, he said to me, man, I couldn't believe I saw all these black people in Egypt. And this is a brother that's kind of like really oriented towards, you know, the pyramids and Kemetic science and the Metu Neter and Ma'at scales of balance. He was really into Egyptology and just assumed that there were no black Africans in Egypt. That's how deep the colonization and how much we've accepted the colonization of North Africa.
Yeah, man. It's like, you know, the people there are just tearing all the stuff down. And then, you know, they do the little documentaries and act like it's them.
Yeah, it's crazy. and let me not get into it.
But I just would say on this end on that, just like people wouldn't tear shit down that's theirs.
Yeah. Have you been following the 100 Men versus Gorilla?
Yeah, I saw that, man, and I'm just like, where'd that even come from, man? Like, whoever thought of
It was just, I don't know why that's so funny to me.
but
I don't know
it's
why.
silly as hell.
That's so, but it's hysterical. I don't know. I've gotten so much laughter this week. I've laughed more this week than I have in the last year combined. It's just a funny idea to me. And some of the memes and shit, that shit just cracked me up. It was funny. And I had people.
I laughed at your meme, man. Your little juxtaposition to the rich people, man.
We'll never sit around and fantasize of using our numerical superiority against our true enemy. But then there was this primatologist who was hired or reached out to give a scientific answer to that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she concluded that 100 men could defeat the gorilla. Now, I don't agree with her, even though she's a primatologist. She studies primates, specifically gorillas, because when she said how the men could defeat the gorilla, she created the most unlikely scenario, because she said, number one, men have the ability to coordinate our actions and organize and coordinate. So our mental, intellectual superiority. And we have, and in that coordination, she said that people could tap in and tap out. So literally you go in, you two-piece the gorilla, and then I step in for you. Like, when is the gorilla ever going to be like, okay, who's next? Like, how are you going to tap in and tap out in a fight with a gorilla? Now, I've seen tag team matches where people were tapping in and tapping out. But I'm going to be like, yo, James, you go in, you wear him out a little bit, then I'm going to come in after you.
Bro, not even in the, man, I wouldn't even entertain that idea, but since we are, who gonna go first?
That's what I'm saying too.
And one swing could take out 3, 4, 5 people with just one clothesline.
Exactly. And you know what is our biggest hindrance in a fight against a gorilla? They say our intellect is an asset, but it's not. You know why? Because we as human beings can anticipate and imagine the injury.
Yeah, once that first motherfucker gets,
when we're standing there like, man, I could get my jawbone ripped off. I can anticipate and visualize the pain. And I'll start feeling the psychological distress of the injury before the injury happens. The gorilla doesn't have that capacity. The gorilla lives in the moment. They're truly zen. They are in that moment. They're not thinking, oh man, they might get me. That'll never cross the. And like you said, even if we came in waves, who's going to volunteer for the first 3 waves? Who's going to volunteer?
I don't know. I don't know who I heard the lady, if this is who you're talking about, she talking about these guys have to be weightlifters and they have to be a certain amount of size. And
you saw that, right? You saw that interview.
Yeah. They have to be a certain size and, athletic and strong. And man, no.
You ever heard that quote? It's easier to imagine the end of the world than to imagine the end of capitalism.
No, I never heard that.
Oh, well, that's a famous quote. But another quote is, it's easier to imagine 100 men fighting a gorilla than 1 billion people fighting the capitalist. And I went and looked up the ratio. The vast majority, less than 3% of the entire global population makes over $1 million a year. Less than 3%, 97% of the global population is from middle class to poor. So less than 3% of the population is eating the vast majority has the most money, the most resources, the most carbon emission. Well, if I could get 100 brothers that want to posse up against Bill Gates, brothers would rather posse up against a fucking gorilla than Bill Gates. And, it don't take but one of us to take out. I think I could slap box Bill Gates.
That'd be a whole lot less dangerous.
Right.
Nobody had to get.
Well, right. I'd glove up against Donald.
You're going to get hurt, but you're going to get your neck ripped off immediately.
Yeah. Oh, they say Zuckerberg studies MMA.
Man, look, I don't care if your most skilled, strongest people, man, ain't nobody running up on no 450-pound gorilla who can twirl himself around like little kids on a motherfucking monkey bar, man.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, but anyway, like I said, it was very funny to me. I don't know why. My sense of humor is kind of weird. So, anyway, excuse me. Today's topic is because I've been getting attacked, so I'm going to take a time to review this again. Is shortcuts to liberation, and the reason I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of things, behaviors, actions, conditions that we identify as Black power, Black liberation, or even necessary for us to change our condition, to change our material and power relationship to the people we identify as oppressors, mainly white folks and their minions. And a lot of these people who I keep running into shortcuts and people who are advocating for these not necessarily negative actions, but at best they're insufficient, at worst they're distractions and detours as the goal, as opposed to a strategy or a tactic. No, this particular thing is a goal. So I just want to talk about, just put out here for you and I and everybody to discuss some of these shortcuts to liberation, right? Mm-hmm. And so the first one.
So are you talking about people that's already organizing, that's already engaged?
No,
people outside.
Everybody, all Black folks, everybody who's oppressed,
because
all oppressed Black people around the world, not any group. Even those groups will come up. People
come from the perspective that we're already integrated, we've already lost, so they don't see like we're trying to win. So I don't even I don't think they could even fathom winning.
Well, you just touched on the first one, because one of the shortcuts to liberation, if you come under oppression, one of the shortcuts to liberation is simply redefine what liberation is. And that's what people, like you said, we're already free. We already liberated, because if you redefine what liberation is getting a good education. Liberation is raising your kids and getting you a good woman. Liberation is individual and personal. Mm-hmm. Or liberation is a mind state, just where your mind is. So if you redefine what liberation is, you can just simply define liberation as a condition that you already occupy, and that's instant liberation. Add water and stir. So that's exactly what you touched on.
And I go with the quote you were saying. I don't know who quoted it, but yeah, we're not free, we just loose. And we have the consumption capacity to move around more than others. So that gives us the feeling that we're free, because we can go wherever and go and come as we please.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't see it that way. I definitely don't see it that way, but that's the way people who think they free see it.
So I would suspect that at least even some people listening to us have redefined what liberation is, and pretty much everything on this list will in some way fall into this category. But one of the things that the Black masses have done is redefine what liberation is, and then apply that definition to their condition and say, well, I'm already free, or I'm on the path to freedom, or I got the answer to liberation. So redefine liberation, and the mirror to that is deny oppression. Because if you're redefining liberation and defining yourself as free, then you're also denying that you're oppressed.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think that. A lot of people don't think we're oppressed because we got a couple dollars, we live a certain lifestyle. I hear it all the time, man. I hear it all the time.
And so, right. And so I think redefining liberation is probably the number one, even though the list is not in any type of order from least to worst or worst to least. Mm-hmm. But if I had to say what is the number one shortcut and the number one utilized self-delusion is the redefining liberation. And a close second to that would be Black capitalism.
Yeah, how can you not be free if you got a billionaire like Robert Smith? He free. He's not oppressed. You know what I'm
saying? and not only that, but not only do we have Robert Smith, but the system will allow for the rest of us to become as rich as he is if we take the right steps. And Black capitalism is Black Wall Street, Black businesses, Black banks, buy Black. Mm-hmm. All these economic solutions, you know, but I got another one that's economic, but it doesn't fall under Black capitalists, because most of the people I know that support this other financial shortcut are anti-capitalist, in fact. But Black capitalism is one that I get beat up a lot, because I just got accused just yesterday of support. I got called a coon and say that I support Black poverty and that I want Black people to be poor because I'm so staunchly anti-capitalist.
Yeah, man, they don't understand capitalism then, because capitalism creates poverty. And that's just a simple thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, like when I finally really understood that, like when I really understood the definition, like of exploitation and capitalism had all fits. Like, yeah, if you're against poverty, you should be against capitalism.
Right. I mean, capitalism doesn't create wealth, it concentrates wealth. And it's really funny that capitalists are the ones who, because of the distortion of facts, the lies, the capitalists are the ones that are able to parade around society and say, we're the ones who want to uplift people. We're the ones who want people to be rich and healthy. You know, we want people to have the finer things in life. When capitalism is an engine of poverty, it doesn't just drive poverty, it thrives off of poverty. And in fact, some of the most impoverished areas of the world is where the majority of the wealth is extracted from. You know, and we look at, and most of the countries in the world are capitalist, have capitalist economy, and most of the world are impoverished. So
yeah, and Nigeria, and people try to bring up Nigeria as a capitalist country, but they have more poverty. But they have the most poverty, even though they are rich.
And they have the most Black billionaires.
And it's all Black. It's an all Black homogenous country. And capitalism, you can see it even amongst your own people. And I'm just like, how do poverty exist? Like, it you can look at your people and you got all this money floating around, and you could just let them exist like that.
Mm-hmm. So another one that people kind of miss, there's a lot of words for this, but I'll just call it lawfulness. Mm-hmm. People say respectability and things like that, but that kind of goes astray, because people get into a lot of debates about it. But lawfulness, Black folks that think that if Black people obeyed the laws of the society, if we weren't out here, and not just the legal or criminal laws, but civil codes and even the customs and traditions of the societies where we live in. If we didn't wear bonnets and pajamas to the grocery store and things of that nature.
Respectability,
so lawful people, and even Dr. Claude Anderson on his Harvest Institute page wrote this long essay years and years ago called Inappropriate Behavior, a Roadblock to Liberation. And when he said inappropriate behavior, he didn't put in there, well, you know, it's inappropriate to cooperate with the state against your own people, to be a race trader or something. But the inappropriate behavior was not being frugal with our money and not dressing appropriately for formal situations. And I'm like, so a lot of Black people have and probably the mantra of this shortcut or this delusion is we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah, I hate that.
So if we would stop killing each other, we'd be free. If we would stop dressing inappropriately, if we learn to speak standard English instead of, you know, dropping G's and shit, we would be free. And we would not only get free, but we would have the respect of the people who have committed genocide, enslavement, colonization against us.
My question to that is, didn't they try to assassinate Barack Obama? Wasn't he up for assassination, or didn't they catch some people trying to assassinate him?
Oh yeah, they actually did, right? It was some militia members.
But if if you took me and Barack and walked us both down the street, they gonna hang us both.
Yeah, but Barack Obama was not lawful. He's an international war criminal, so he wouldn't fit. I don't think he's the best example.
Well, I'm just saying, as a neat and tidy black man, you know what I'm saying, a respectable, speak English, respectable black man. I'm just saying, you walk us down the street, I'm in the hoodie or the tank top, whatever, I'm looking a certain way, he looking the way he look. They ain't gonna say we're gonna give him a pass because he speak proper English. Come on, man, they gonna hang both of us, man. So that's my rebuttal to when they get to talking that bullshit, man. Like, man, go on somewhere with that, man.
Yeah, but I mean, how many black people do you know that think that if we didn't break the laws and we wouldn't get? I mean, Lil Boosie, Skip Coon's favorite rapper. You know, Lil Boosie said black people get shot by the police because we don't know how to act. And I worked with this black activist who wrote a book called "Shut Your Black Ass Up." And
hey, Diallo, hold on for a second. So you keep buffering every now and then, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if the people can see it, but I could see it from here. So I don't know. But okay.
Oh, okay. But it's good on my end. I don't see it like on my computer, but I'll see. I might have to refresh. But he wrote a book instructing black people on how to avoid being assaulted by the police. And all of it was about your own individual behavior. It was nothing about us coming together collectively, about us restraining the power of the police. It was 100% shut your black ass up. Don't talk back. No sudden movements, hands on the steering wheel, all that shit. And he was actually a cop when he wrote that, and he got fired. You know, and I had to work with this guy for years because we were both part of the same organization.
Yeah, I don't believe that, man. I don't believe that one bit, man. You know what I mean? A lot of these people that got killed complying, being lawful.
Over compliant. and yeah, so lawfulness is another shortcut. This is someone that's going to bother some people. And divine retribution in cults, that should be cults plural. Can I fix that? No, hold on. If I take it off, they'll let me fix it. Cults. There we go. Divine retribution in cults. And if this, I want y'all to pay attention to these shortcuts, because I know folks listening, I know for a fact folks listening have tried to take some of these shortcuts because they've said to me directly. So a lot of black people say basically that our ancestors, the Orisha, Allah, Jesus, Yahweh are going to come back here and free us and punish our oppressors. We are the real people. We are the real chosen people. This is the black man's religion. Our Lord and Savior have been pushing this shit to even deifying some human beings, whether it's Elijah Muhammad or Haile Selassie, turning some men into gods or saying they are divine and they will one day free us. This is extremely common.
Yeah, man. They turned that man into another Jesus. His name was something else. the emperor from Ethiopia.
Yeah, Haile Selassie.
But his name was something else. Rastafari. Wasn't his name
that's the
Rastafari?
religion. Yeah, Ras means king, so Rastafari, the king of kings. So that was his title, more so. Yeah, once he became crowned king or emperor, Haile Selassie Rastafari. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's where the actual name of the Rastas come from?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, man, that's Jesus Christ status right there, ain't it?
Yeah, well, some of the biggest roadblocks I've run into, and there's been some arguments that even saying that if Black people start to organize, not only does it say that there will be divine retribution, some supernatural solution to our problems, but also that has been used to say, well, Black people, we are cursed, or because of our sin, the sins of the past of our ancestors, or because of our current sins and ungodliness is why we are oppressed.
I hate that shit, man.
Yeah.
It's like, because you can't never escape that shit.
Right. And I think, and people get mad at me for constantly criticizing, mocking, belittling, rejecting religion and spirituality, because the conscious Black community, the revolutionary community, wants to be more inclusive. Pan-African community wants to say, well, most of our people believe in some form of supernatural spookism, and so if you mock people's beliefs, then you're going to make it almost impossible for us to organize, because people won't be around you if you make fun of their delusions, or if you. But my question is, how can you liberate people from capitalism and white hegemony when one of the longest, which religious oppression predates all of that? Religious oppression is one of the oldest forms of oppression documented. And no one would ever sit there and say, well, most men are patriarchal, so if you're going to liberate our people, you can't attack patriarchy or sexism, because a lot of men won't join the movement. But those same people that would never say that will sit there and say, man, you can't be talking about people's faiths, even though their faiths have colonized us, mutilated, raped, just have committed every atrocity you can list against us. But you can't talk about it, because then people don't want to work with you, people won't join you. And that is one of the most and then people say stuff like this.
Hey, so Diallo, so what you feel about what how Kwame Ture characterized the religion and the people? He was like, you know what I'm talking about? Where he separated, well, he tried to separate the behavior of people from the religion. Like, you can't judge a religion.
I don't agree with that, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
he said you have to judge a religion based on its
adherence, its tenets.
Right. You can't judge it on the behavior of its adherents. So you can't judge Christianity based on Trump's behavior, even though Trump claims to be a Christian. You can't judge Catholicism based on what's her name? Mother Teresa's behaviors. You have to judge Catholicism. You have to read the Douay Bible. If you want to judge Islam, you have to read the Hadith or the Quran. If you want to judge Kemetic spirituality, you have to read the Metu Nietzsche or the Kemetic tree of life, all that stuff. But the reality is, I don't agree with that. But even if we did that and we held to his standard, these books are still atrocious.
Yeah.
Those books advocate for behaviors that are immoral, criminal, abusive, predatory, dehumanizing, just the tenets. So even if I adhere to Kwame Ture's limitation on how we can approach this topic, I think I would still reach the same conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that book horrible, man. I don't even, but I don't it's hard to crack people's emotional attachment, man, because that's what it is. It's an emotional attachment, because you got some people who can actually separate the facts and the shit from the Bible, but they still claim that shit. I don't get it, but they still claim it. They can tell you, well, I don't believe that. That's wrong, and this is meant for this, and this ain't that. But that character, Jesus Christ, is man.
The virgin sacrifice. That's all I'm calling now.
Man, he's untouchable,
Jesus
man.
Christ was a virgin sacrifice.
Like, man, you can't mess with that dude, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I say we bang. You got to. You can't claim people from political oppression.
On this religion all the time, but I don't know, man, because a lot of the revolutionaries of old come from out of those religions. They was just doing what they thought was right. You know what I mean? And they, I guess they use that to strengthen them, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think you give them too much credit when you say they're doing what they thought was right. I don't think, like you said earlier, it's an emotional attachment. I don't think it's a rational thing, because if someone is thinking about what's right, I think their thoughts and their rational minds would cause them to diverge from religious morality or religious teaching. That's what happened to me. I was a true believer.
No, I just mean, like, as far as when they was rebelling, back in the 60s, a lot of those people were, out of the church. And so I'm just saying, they just had a moral sense that, they was doing something right by, standing up to oppression. And I'm just saying
right. But the problem with that is these religions, especially the Abrahamic religions, teach that right, morality, good is adherence to the word of Yahweh, Jesus, Allah. So our sense of what's right in terms of whether we go through, well, what's right is what does harm or less harm. That is not what religious people are. Not moral. They're not ethical. They are people of the law. They are people of the word. So if they can rationalize in their mind, the Almighty wants me to kill, the Almighty wants me to take a child bride, the Almighty wants me to take this land and either purge the natives or convert the natives, that is all right in the eyes and the word of God. The Zionists think they are doing God's law. So I don't even think it's appropriate to apply ethics, morality, good to religious people who are doing something based on religion. Even if someone says, well, it's because of God, I'm not out here abusing people. Because I had my older brother told me one time, man, if not for Allah, I'd be out here in these streets robbing and killing. If not for Allah, I'd be, because, that's where he came from. He was like, I was in the streets heavy. Then I found the law and started going to the masjid. And then I stopped doing those things. And then when you came to my house and I looked you in the face and say, hey, James, the only reason I didn't poison your food is because the tooth fairy said don't do it. You was like, man, this dude's whole motivation is based on a fantasy.
Right. No,
that would scare the shit out of me. It does scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, I couldn't fuck with you after that.
Right thing, I'm doing the right thing for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I can't fuck with you after that, bro.
Now I'm about to do it. You ain't coming to dinner no more? You didn't like it?
No, the food was good. Look, I didn't leave a strand on my plate, man. See,
I know. I got in trouble. You caused turmoil in my family because my sons got up the next morning and was like, where are the cupcakes? We were supposed to have 3 cupcakes. I was like, well, I gave our guest. I let him walk with 2. He took 2 home.
I smashed them cupcakes. Like, I ate 2 and I took whatever you gave me and I smashed them motherfucker on the way home.
That left a shortage. Because, it's 4 of us here. Well, my son, he got his own place, but he eats here. And so she makes them in them 6 pans. So all of my wife's vegan desserts are divisible by 4. Mm-hmm. So when you add a 5th person into the mix and you take your cut, that throws off the count. And I literally got yelled at by both my sons.
Hey, look, I thought they knew, because I was like, man, he was like, no, you can have that one. Let me get that.
Anyway, now I'm about to start really banging on y'all, because now I'm about to talk about the good, because those were all the bad shortcuts, right? All the shortcuts to liberation so far have been bad shit. Redefining liberation, black capitalism, lawfulness, divine retribution. But now I'm about to say some things that are good, that are very good, that are necessary, that I embrace, but they will not bring us liberation. Even if we all did it at the same time, it would not translate into black power, black liberation.
Okay.
You ready? Now I'm about to talk.
Here, man.
Now I'm about to say some shit, and y'all about to get real hurt. Even you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have it, man.
And by shortcuts, I really could say something like a fallacies or delusions of black liberation, but I didn't want to be mean. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf.
I could take criticism.
But these shortcuts, I call them shortcuts to liberate black liberation, but they're not. They're not shortcuts. They're more delusions. Maybe I'll change the name of delusions of black liberation. So the first one is black love.
Yeah, see, people that turned the channel off now, like they didn't go about their business.
Black love is not a path to black liberation.
You mean Michelle and Barack ain't the path?
You keep going back to Obama. You're not getting a divorce. Michelle about to be back on the market.
You know what? I saw something about that little rumblings, man. But until it's official, man, that's the Jet Ebony black love couple of the decade, man, of the era.
That woman gonna be worth like what? 125 to 200 million dollars when she get divorced, James. You could go in, do a honeypot. You know what a honeypot is?
Yeah, man. No, Michelle don't do it for me.
It ain't about you though. Take it for the team.
They take one for the team.
Yes, but it's only one problem. You're only missing one thing.
That
you're not an international war criminal, because this woman has a fetish for war criminals.
Oh damn. Well,
But it's not too late. You can go out here and become a Zionist. You can become a card carrying. Are you going to plot this with me? Because we can get offline. Because we can get some of that Obama money. Because he didn't took so much from our community. If we could get something back, if we get Michelle back.
Hey, is Cory Booker married? She can go holler at him.
But then that don't bring nothing back. He's a Zionist establishment dude too. Okay, man.
Oh, okay. So you trying to bring her over here? Oh,
I just want the resources.
Okay,
you can have Michelle on yourself. I'm just saying, if you can, in the settlement, I think she's going to do quite well in the settlement.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Come on, y'all from the same neighborhood.
I got you, B. We gotta,
We discussed it offline. We're gonna do a honey pot on the Obama. But let me say this: all aspects of black love. I have a whole tape or a whole video song. Black love is not revolutionary. So black marriage, no bunny hopping, the black family, us loving on each other is not a threat to our oppressors, our oppression.
No.
I wish it was. I wish just us loving each other, because like you pointed out, there are a lot of reactionary, dysfunctional, backwards black folks who love other black people. I know, I've seen it. It's a lot of pro-Western, pro-capitalist, it's like pro-blackness. And I know a lot of dudes that are married to a black Nubian queen, black man, and they ain't got nothing good for the rest of us. And I think Obama or let's say Jay-Z and Beyonce, that's black love.
Yeah.
Dr. Fubar, nobody is more outspoken about black men being with black women than Dr. Fubar, and he has utter contempt for black women. Black love and all the things that they say. White folks are going to be like, oh, black folks love each other. Let's dismantle the nukes. Let's recall the aircraft carriers. Let's shut down Wall Street. Blacks are all loving each other. Let's stop the oppression today. And that goes kind of back to that whole thing that
of lawfulness, if we stop killing each other, if we stop blah, 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 if we would just stop being bad, then we would be free, or people wouldn't hate us. So that's kind of like the opposite side of that coin. Black love is a good thing. Black love is appropriate. Black love is something we should advance and advocate. But Black love is not revolutionary, and Black love is insufficient to free us.
Yeah, man. I don't think all this esoteric shit, all this feel. I think some immaterial stuff will motivate us, but man, I think we're gonna have to put hands on, man. This shit gonna have to be hands on. Revolution is not gonna happen by osmosis. You know what I mean?
I got another one that's gonna make you even madder though.
All this other shit they talking about, like all this gonna do, nah, man. You know what I mean? This shit ain't gonna happen by osmosis.
Right.
You know, this shit gonna have to with hands on the ground, or my hands around somebody's throat. Something.
Yeah. and some people, depending on your psychological, emotional makeup, some people are driven and motivated by love. Some people are driven and motivated by hate. Whatever your motivation is, you need to level up beyond that emotion, because like you said, a lot of people are emotionally oriented, and you emotion will not sustain you in an intellectual or even material struggle. This is one I know. Reparations is a shortcut. Is sold as a shortcut to liberation. And you have new factions. When I was coming up as a child, there was one faction in the reparations movement coming out of Cobra, Randall Robinson, the National Black United Front. And the reparations was an exclusively leftist, Pan-African, African international, Black radical agenda. And there were a lot of Black conservatives and Black integrationists who said Black people just looking for a handout. In the early 90s, when the reparations movement was getting broad and gaining steam, people were like, oh, we're just trying to act for a handout. America don't owe us nothing. And other immigrants come here and they do something. And now there are new factions within the reparations movement. Now we have a integrationist and conservative and jingoistic and Western-oriented pro-capitalist faction within reparations. So it's not just enough to say you support reparations, which I do. You have to go now articulate that your faction of liberation is the leftist, Pan-African, socialist faction of the reparations movement, and not the ADOS, FBA, jingoistic, integrationist, pro-capitalist faction of the reparations movement.
Yeah, I'm very simple and clear on that, man. Like, a payment is not reparations. I think you said it, and I probably got it from you. I don't know where I got it from, but I agree with it wholeheartedly. Like, nobody can repair us but us. They're not going to repair us. That money is not going to repair us. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, if I get a $500,000 check or a $2 million check, I'm going to take it and put it in my pocket.
But that's not liberation.
And I'm right. And I'm still not repaired, and I'm still not liberated. So, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, like, I don't agree with that.
Salvation. We talking about liberation. I know y'all don't think liberation and salvation are synonymous. Stop it. But
Diallo, look. So, because this is how I see it, right? Okay, beyond this material stuff, like, I don't want to be ruled by who these people who's ruling me now, right? And so, and I've been, having this question about a two-party system versus a dictator or authoritarian leader or whatever. You know what I'm saying? What's your views on that, man? Like, because like what I heard was like a two-party system is like too inconsistent, too unstable. So maybe a dictator, and I don't want to call him a dictator, but somebody that you know, the people, an authoritarian leader would probably be more stable, especially if the people support him. You know what I mean? Like, I guess what's going on in Burkina Faso and maybe other areas. But, you know, those governments seem to be more stable. I mean, you know, outside of, you know, being, you know, trying to sabotage.
I don't agree with that. I don't support military dictatorships or authoritarian dictatorships. I think the two-party system and a multi-party system, I think a multi-party system is preferable. But in reality, even within the two-party system, we do have multiple factions within the two parties. So you're either going to have a multi-party system where people are factions, but even within the two-party system, you'll see that there is a lot in both the Republican and Democrats, several factions vying for power. So I think in terms of electoral politics, I'm talking about strictly in the arena of electoral politics. This does not apply to everything. But Dr. John Henry Clarke said, any system can work for you if you make it work for you. So there are certain vulnerabilities that come with being under a two-party system, but because it's a two-party system, the elections are literally won in the margins, and you can manipulate within the margins. So there are opportunities for manipulation. In a multi-party system, you're able to move more freely because of the factions. And then in a dictatorship, but the issue is, it doesn't fucking matter what system it is if it's a capitalist white hegemony. So if tomorrow we woke up in the United States and there were 15 different parties that all had an opportunity to be elected and assert their platform within the electoral politics, we would still be required to organize for our liberation. So there are multi-party states if you go in parliamentary states. But you have African people that live under multi-party states that are capitalistic or under white hegemony. We have Black people that live under dictatorships. We have Black people living under every single form of governance that has been conceptualized and imposed. Okay, but we have to fight under them all. And if you look from a Marxist perspective, it's not the political system that brings stability, but the material, the access to extraction of, development, process, and distribution of the resources of the society, the means of production that dictate whether or not you'll have any level of stability or instability.
Okay, so right, I was basically thinking about these socialist nations, you know, like Cuba and, you know, down to Latin America, you know what I'm saying? Those are not.
Well, a lot of times when we're talking about a dictatorship or authoritarian government, the United States, we can't go by.
That's how they classify him, right? That's how they classify.
They call Maduro a dictator,
right? And
they call Maduro a dictator. They call Castro a dictatorship, and now they say it's now that Castro passed. They say the communist regime or the socialist regime, one-party state. But then they'll go and work with the totalitarian dictator of Saudi Arabia. And I think Trump's first overseas visit is going to be to Saudi Arabia, a country that's run by a family. It's not even a political party. It's literally that whole country is the personal property of one family. Because before the Saudis took over, it used to just be Arabia. You go see the movie Lawrence of Arabia. That was called Arabia, and it became Saudi Arabia because they put their name on it. So we going outside of the United States determining who's a dictator and who's democracy. If you go to somewhere like Cuba, Cuba was set up under local governance, even though Castro was the head of state, the people were essentially self-governing. So under a socialistic, and what they called it, the more formal term is siege socialism. So if you adopt a socialist government, you're going to come under attack by the CIA, MS-13, MI6, what's the other one? The Mossad. You're going to come under attack from the economic hitman. So a lot of times, even with Ibrahim Traore, there will be outside forces trying to subvert your movement. So you have to reinforce your liberation struggle. And then they're going to turn around while you're trying to basically under a siege, a nation under siege by foreign hostile interests. And they were like, well, why don't you have a democracy? You say, because you're trying to have a coup d'etat. So that's like somebody come to your house, I come over your house, and you got people literally shooting at your house, doing drive-bys, arsonists throwing gasoline, trying to set your house on fire. And I walk through the front door, and I'm like, well, shouldn't your woman have as much authority in this house as you? And the children don't have enough say in the house. Like, it's kind of hard. Like, if you got external forces attacking your house, how do you govern your house? Like in my house now, everybody has a say, even my young son. You know, we don't just dictate to him. We try to work issues out with him. If he has something he's interested in or has priorities and stuff, and they don't align with us, we don't just bring down the hammer. We try to discuss it with him. But if people are throwing Molotovs through our windows, like the Nation of Islam did Malcolm X, then how we govern our house would have to adjust. It might even break down.
I'll just get ready to say, so if it's so it's more of a defense against the attack more so than you becoming, you know, yeah, and they just characterize it as negatively,
right?
Because,
so
yeah.
You have to when you're looking at a state or a government or a political system, you can't just say, well, this is a democracy and this is a dictatorship. You have to look at the larger history. The United States is a genocidal settler colony. So anytime the United States says we're a democracy, we hold elections, boom, 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 you can't live out the fact of how this nation was established and how it is sustained. It is also an imperialist nation that enforces its will through military and economic coercion across the globe. And then you go to Traore, which I have a lot of critiques and criticism of Ibrahim and how the governing structure of Burkina Faso. But my criticism is rooted in a nation that is under colonial rule, that is in opposition to colonial rule. So at the same time, I'm going to critique that. I don't critique it outside of the context of its larger reality. Or somebody come and tell me Maduro in Venezuela, that he's under a Bolivarian socialist revolution that's had several coup d'etat attempts in that country as well. Or Israel's like, we're a liberal democracy. They tout themselves as the only liberal democracy in the entire Middle East. And there are people that are dumb enough to be like, democracy equals good. And if you don't have regular elections every 4 years, then you're a bad country, good, bad, without looking at any of the other political, historical, economic, military realities on the ground in that nation. So every nation has to be kind of measured. You can't just say, oh, it's a democracy, it's good or bad, or oh, it's a dictatorship, it's good or bad, even though rule of thumb, we tend to think democracy good, dictatorship bad. You have to look at all the factors before you can make come to an accurate conclusion about the nature of a state, how it's governed, and who holds the power.
Okay.
I wish it was an easy answer. Well, if it's a democracy, then that means that it's a good country. Let's move on. I wish it was that simple.
Yeah. No, I was just, because I had just, you know, I had been seeing, you know, these scenarios, and I just was just thinking, like, you know, because, you know, I'm not as seasoned as y'all is, man. I got a lot more questions and answers. So, but I just thought that was interesting on, you know, how what was the difference and like how the stability between the two, you know.
Yeah, but the stability isn't born A stable politics is a byproduct of the material conditions, not a source of it.
Okay.
Even though there is some level of interplay.
Okay.
Because just because you have stability doesn't mean it's one of the most stable societies in the world is Saudi Arabia. They don't have very many upheavals or internal conflicts. But it's one of the most repressive. They do public executions there. And you get a lot of black men that go to the Middle East and be like, I love it here. You got black men going to United Arab Emirates, the UAE. These are literally slave economies. These are old school, based on slavery and hyper exploitation, no civil liberties or rights. And you'll find people, famous people, Will Smith, and even y'all beloved Samuel L. Jackson, and they go to the Middle East and be like, there's no crime. I can put a wallet down on the public park and drop a wallet and walk away. But they never go to Saudi Arabia or UAE and be like, look at these public executions. Look at these enslaved people from Africa, where this wealthy Islamic oligarch threw his Kenyan maid off a balcony and had to pay a fine. They don't show you that part. They just, and there are black men mainly, because I don't see many sisters doing this, that say, fine, I'd be willing to have that level of repression if I can leave my wallet on the bench and not have to deal with petty pickpockets, because these dumb motherfuckers think I'm going to be part of the oligarchy. So if I do go there, I'm going to be part of the oligarchy. So none of the brutal, draconian oppression will apply to me. Okay, I guess I got that wrong. I guess your algorithm. I guess his sister's that dumb too. Thanks for clarifying that. But reparations is, we are worthy of reparations. But I have to say, African people, we should never stake our liberation on anything that can be granted or denied us by our oppressors. And I have been a full supporter, advocate. I've been a card-carrying member of NCOBRA. I have supported African people whose ancestors endured slavery and endured Jim Crow. This country has stolen trillions of dollars of wealth from African people and their descendants. We didn't descend from slavery. We descended from Africans. And we are owed reparations above and beyond what this system could even pay us. But reparation is about seeking justice, but we should not stake our liberation on the securing reparations.
So it's not only about repair, it's about justice too. Exactly.
And here's another one. This one ain't as popular now, but when I was coming up in the movement, this was extremely popular. Repatriation, where you mentioned the Rastafarians. Repatriation is a cornerstone of their prophecy. But simply moving back to Africa will not liberate. If we all go, or just a small number of us to go, simply relocating to any country is not going to solve our problem, because our problems of oppression and white hegemony and capitalism and the destruction of ecosystems is not limited by borders.
Right.
So repatriation.
And then going back there as colonizers. Black people back there as, you know what I mean? Like that shit is awful.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know like how they don't even see that that's what they're doing when they go back there like that with that.
Yeah.
With all that.
Yeah, that's what happened in Liberia. That was one of the first mass repatriation projects occurred after chattel slavery was reformed, not necessarily abolished. And the Africans, the Liberians, Amero Liberians, went back there and started literally enslaving and colonizing Liberia. You know,
you can only do what you know, man. And that's a lot what I be hearing one of these cats say, you know, who we interact with. You know, like if you wish to take the black people out of this country and transplant them somewhere else, we're going to get the same thing, because what's in you, you have not got rid of. The religion, the indoctrination, the education, all of that shit that's in you, you're going to take somewhere else, and you can only do what you know. Right. So you're going to build from the bullshit that's been in you. You know what I'm saying? That's in you too. So yeah, man, like, right, man. We gotta purge all that shit, man.
So, and again, Black love, reparations, repatriation are all very positive things. But we're talking about things that we sell as shortcuts to revolution that are not necessary, that even on surface, without much examination, like, oh yeah, if we did this, shit would be all right. Another is something that I'm seeing is bearing arms. Is that how you do, right? Bear arms?
No, I think it's the other one. Oh. Bear as in grizzly bear.
Is that how it's written?
I think that's bear arms, like, like bear. But
it's like BEAR.
No, it could be, man. I ain't never seen it like that. I think it's bear.
Which is it? I don't know.
Like the animal bear. But either way, you know what I'm saying? You know what it is.
Because, yeah, it is spelled like bear arms.
Yeah, like grizzly bear arms. Yeah.
It is. You're right. I'm going to fix it. Yeah, I wasn't sure of that.
Either way, goddammit. If you bear arms, you're going to bear arms. Goddammit.
Oh, it means like in the context of holding. In the context of holding. Well, we have both of those rights. But it's now that the United States is becoming a Christian theocracy, women are going to lose the right to bear arms. That means like to bear bad news, to carry. Okay.
But what's funny about these Christian motherfuckers? They don't like when the Muslim women, like, they cover up, but they got a problem, but they want their women to cover up. Like I don't understand. Like, what's the conflict?
Well, actually, that's one component of Islam that a lot of Islamophobic Christians respect. You even have a lot of fascists that, like, what's that boy's name? The Predator. Andrew Tate converted to Islam. And the reason he converted to Islam is because he said that Christianity has gotten too soft on women. And Christianity has allowed women to go crazy, which it has. Christianity has reformed and has violated the tenets of Christianity. So this liberal reformed Christianity is not the true Christianity. It's not biblical Christianity, because biblical Christianity, like Quranic Islam, is extremely anti-woman. The God of the Abrahamic religion has cursed women, has mandated that women are not to hold positions of authority, that women are property akin to a man's land or his donkeys, to be bought, sold, or traded. If you attack a woman, then you owe her father a debt because she doesn't own herself. So many fascists that admire that misogynistic component, as we call misogynistic component of Islam, are actually correct in what they're saying. Even though we don't agree with it, we don't like it, but that don't make it incorrect.
Yeah.
Because you and Kwame Ture said we have to judge these religions, Christianity, according to what's in the Bible.
No, I just, I thought, because I do think that, I don't know what's the word to use, coddle or try to bring into the fold the religious sect of our community in. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good mix, man. I don't know if that'll work.
Yeah.
You know,
well, if the tenets of Christianity are true, that means Harriet Tubman and Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Nat Turner are all in hell. If the Christian Bible that they believed in were true, because slaves are mandated to obey thy master as you would obey the Lord. There is no mandate or approval for slave rebellion written in the Holy Scriptures.
Yeah.
So I don't know how y'all gonna do a revolution with black people who bow down to the colonial like, I don't agree with the political system. I don't agree with the economic system, but the divine concept on and the establishment of reality and morality, I completely agree with the oppressor's divine concept and the concept of the divine. So I accept the oppressor's fundamental understanding of reality, but I'm going to organize those people who are going to rebel against the economic and political system. How, Sway? How, Sway?
Well, Islam teach to be respectful of the law. So, they,
and respect people in power. Yes. Islam and Christianity were both cults. They were one of many cults. Islam, Allah, if you read about the history of Islam, the nomadic Bedouin people who founded Islam, which wasn't Africans, but the Islamic Bedouins, or the pre-Islamic Bedouin nomadic people, all of the symbols, all of the terminology, the rituals embedded in Islam come from their culture. It predates the culture. Even the Muslim name, Muhammad's name was Muhammad before he created Islam. So how the hell Bob is as Islamic as Muhammad? So anyway, they had a polytheistic culture. They had a culture that believed in many gods. And Muhammad literally picked Allah out of a pantheon and said, well, no, this is the one true God, and all these other gods got to go. And most of these so-called world religions, they were able to cozy up to the state power. Even not just the main religions like Christianity, but Protestantism. Every major powerful religion became wedded to state power, or the whatever faction of power, whether it's a monarchy or a government as we recognize it today. And that's how they became world religion. So powerful, corrupt men are what determine which religions will become global religions, which religions fade to obscurity. And that's the engine. Oppression is the engine of religion. And you can't find any major religion, including Buddhism and Hinduism, that wasn't driven forward by massive atrocities. But again, we got to pretend like you got to respect people's beliefs, even not if they believe in white hegemony, not if they believe in capitalism, but if they believe in a God that's worse than any capitalist could ever be, then we got to respect it. Make it make sense.
No.
But anyway, why you keep taking us back to religion?
Because it all intertwines, man. Because a lot of these people don't, they're attached to it, and it governs them.
True that. So bearing arms. Did we even talk about why bear arms isn't a path to liberation?
You say, have we ever talked about it? Yeah, because it's the ideology behind. It's the ideology behind the gun.
Guns alone does not.
I be listening, man. I be listening. I be paying attention, man.
And you and I live in communities that are saturated with guns, and most of those guns in our possession, most guns, but this doesn't apply uniquely to Black people. The majority of the guns in the white community are used against other white folks. And if you have a gun in your house, it is upwards of, 14 times more likely that the gun is going to be used on yourself or a beloved one than an axe murderer or you won't be able to be some vigilante justice. So I support gun ownership. I am a gun owner. But I understand that this can perhaps be a tool to protect oneself, or even a tool if you are properly organized and oriented and have the right ideology. It can even be a tool in rebellion or liberation. But we got a lot of people out here. I saw this one picture, people keep showing me, of this whole fucking family. They all strapped up with these high-tech weapons with laser scopes. Even the little kid, like a little 5-year-old, standing there strapped up.
Yeah.
And I thought we had a whole movement against child soldiers. And everybody's like, yeah, this is what, yeah. And they standing in front of their house. And what you see every time you get one of these black celebrities, these online personalities, they got all these guns. And the moment a bill collector knock on their door, I swear there was this guy, I'll say his name, Balu Gong. He was out here, every time you see him online, he had all these guns, clack, clack, he's shooting, boom, 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 boom. And then the cops came and arrested him for domestic violence, and they literally brought him out of his house in his drawers. And he didn't throw one rock. You know? So guns alone are more of a liability than an asset outside of a revolutionary collective organizational context.
And bro, I heard you say something when we was when we, got together that time, man, too, like as far as organizations and study teams, you was like you would rather do study teams than organizations. I've been thinking about that, man, and I'm like, so okay, I ain't gonna go there, man. Let's just stay on.
Well, yeah, okay. This is the last one. And then we can open it up. Africanization. Africanizing, and by Africanization, I mean African people learning our African history, learning an African language, wearing African garb, changing our name from a slave name to an African name. That does not equal we reclaim these things we lost in slavery, will not liberate us. It's sold as a shortcut to liberation, but it is not a replacement or substitute for liberation.
I agree.
And I'm not saying don't do it, because my middle name is Kenyatta. So I go by my first and middle name because those are African names, even though I have no respect. Please, the Kenyans, every couple of months, a Kenyan will find me online and go off on me and say, why would you call yourself Kenyatta? He was a horrible man. He was a sellout. He was neo-colonial. And I'm like, I know this. But at the time when I was born, my father thought that, he read Facing Mount Kenya. He knew about the Mau Mau Rebellion. And he gave me that name because he was ill-informed about the reality of the sellout traitor Jomo Kenyatta.
Still a dope name, though. I like the name, Kenyatta.
Yeah, I understand that, but none of those things will liberate us, because the main reason is all the things, we were fully African when we came under the Ma'afa. If having an African name, knowing an African language, living in an African nation, wearing African garb, loving an African woman, if all those things would protect us. So those things are appropriate, they're necessary, they are evolutionary. These are things that we cultivated when we were in freedom. That is evolution. But as Kwame Ture said, we need a revolutionary process. So he said, when someone pulls you away from your natural evolution, you can no longer rest on your natural evolution. You then have to embark on a revolutionary process when you come under colonization, oppression. So even, you look at other countries like China. When China was under European colonization, opium wars and all that, they had a cultural revolution. They had to go back and look at their entire culture and history and say, where did we go wrong and what needs to be transformed? What no longer works for us? Because the very things that allowed you to function in freedom, if you keep doing those things under oppression, the thing that used to help, that used to be healthy, will become toxic. So yeah, we love all our people and all our people love us. But then you come under colonization and a segment of your population becomes a race traders and they join the colonizers. You can't just love your people anymore. You have to have terms and conditions. No more universal basic love. We used to have welcoming of strangers. Okay, you know, we were xenophilic people. Nobody had to fight their way onto Africa's shores. If you came onto our shores, we treat you just like many of the Native Americans did. We'll give you shelter, food. We'll teach you how to sustain you. You can't do that shit no more. So Africanization, I respect any African from the African diaspora, where we lost our language, our culture, we lost our identity, that seek to reconstruct our African identity and then reconnect with our African homeland. I respect it. I support it. I'm engaged in that effort personally, and I help other people embark on that journey. But that is not where I rest. That is insufficient for liberation. That's my point.
So look, do we accept? Okay. So as a group, where are we? Do we? Okay, for people that's moving in those areas, right? And they're not sufficient, but from where they come from, that may be a step towards us. So we should encourage that, right? But not let them settle there. We should constantly keep pushing them.
Yes.
But,
see, the problem
how
is
do you push them? And to be honest, this is really like a question for the whole masses, because right now we're probably as a whole in a liberal state, liberal area. We're not revolutionary right now, right? So it seems like each generation we probably are moving. Well, I don't know how we moving. I don't know how we moving. Which way we moving. So like, yeah, so how do you gauge that? And then, you know, and so like, and then when you gauge that, what is the method for moving us to revolution?
Well, in terms of revolutionizing people, the number one way to revolutionize people, or for the people who are already revolutionized, to come together and demonstrate to those outside the movement the viability of our ideas. That is also coupled with advocacy, education, study, reflection, and all that. But the number one way I see to organize, to bring more people onto the revolution, is for the few people that are already aware. Because we who are conscious, we give a lot of energy to waking up people and not enough energy to what do we do with those who are already awake? Because I get that question a lot. How do you wake people up? And I'm like, I seldom get the question, how do you organize the people who are already believe what you believe?
Well, it seems like that's the mission, right? Because I think that's the question I've been at for the past few weeks. Like, what are we after? Like, are we after? I think this is like me and Skip talked about this. Like, what are we after? Like, is it leadership? Well, it's probably both, I would assume, right? We want better leadership, but we also want educated masses.
No, we don't want that. Yeah, y'all. You and Skip really love the people.
Well, I'm saying if voting is
people want money,
so what are we doing? Trying to do?
They want a lot of money. They want good sex. They want to live in a affluent neighborhood. They want to be dry, warm, and fed. A lot of these higher things that we project onto the people don't even think about it, let alone want it.
And okay, but and I'm saying, how do so are we trying to build a voting populace, or are we just trying to flip the ones that's already involved?
But you're acting like those are mutually exclusive goals.
Well, because I'm saying, like, if
we want both of that, we want both of them.
But okay, but I'm saying, if there's a percentage that does, because it seemed like what I've seen was that there's more people that don't vote than do vote. So, if not to say that they're not interested in something is not bringing them to the polls, and are we trying to bring them?
Yeah,
like what are we trying to do with them? Because right, we can't jump from revolution. I mean, from where they are to straight to revolution. So, what are we trying to do with them? If that makes sense.
Well, our main goal is to revolutionize our people.
Okay.
That's the ultimate goal.
Okay.
That's what we want.
Right.
We want our people to embrace a revolutionary Pan-African ideology. And once they embrace and cultivate and educate themselves within a Pan-African revolutionary Pan-African ideology, we want them to begin and to engage in Pan-African revolutionary organization, with the ultimate goal being to subvert the systems and institutions of global white domination and white hegemony and capitalism. And once that is subvert and dismantle those institutions and structures, they have to be replaced.
How do we reach them people? How do we reach them? What is the message, or how do we reach them?
By all means necessary. The written word, the spoken word, through music, through crafts, through art, through collective outreach and individual and personalized contact. You employ every means at your disposal to reach them. And as you engage with them, you find out what are some of their immediate needs and valid concerns. And so as you get them to work to free the collective, we also have to work to build up and reinforce and support the individual. So we're not just seeking to extract from the people, we're also seeking to give them and define and determine what is to be given to them. And we have to demonstrate to them that unity is both your obligation to the collective and then the collective's obligation to you as an individual.
Okay, so they need to see it in action. They need to see.
For some people, that's what they need to see. They need to see action. They need to see that the ideas that we espouse, once they are inaccurate, they can be viable. Other people need a good argument, a rational argument. Other people can be inspired through evidence and research. Some people might have to go through some type of personal tragedy of racism, or have someone close to them go through a personal tragedy. People's motivations are very varied. That's why the revolution cannot be pigeonholed or have like, this is the answer. There, even though we're trying to work towards a singular goal, our methods, tactics, strategies, approaches need to be as varied and diverse as the people we seek to bring in.
Okay. You know, I'm asking these questions for myself.
No, I'm trying to answer as clearly as possible. I appreciate those questions.
No, because I know that that day I was I called you about that guy outside the church. That's not my mission, is to try to go out and it that came to me, right? But I do feel like you're right. Like, there need to be some type of engagement on. We need to go
on all levels. I agree. And the thing is that every Black person as an individual should make a positive contribution to our just aspirations. And it is a tragedy to be under universal oppression. But one of the good things or positives, if you can call it that, of being under universal oppression is whatever your interest, whatever your talents, whatever gets you off, you can find a way to radicalize that and make that positive contribution to our just aspirations. And the people who sell this whole thing, well, you have to wear a bow tie and hustle bean pods to be a revolutionary, or you have to take up a gun to be a revolutionary, or you have to be a healer to be a revolutionary. None of those things are true. You can find out what gets you off and use that and make revolutionize and politicize that. Because there is no segment of what Dr. Neely Fuller called the areas of human interactions where white domination, white hegemony, and capitalism has not infused itself. And because this system of oppression has inundated every aspect of human existence, you can resist. You can mount a resistance in every aspect of human resistance. And that is, and the system has allowed for the development of and the reproduction and spread of these false freedoms and these false liberations and these false paths to power. They've allowed for that because if people didn't have these delusions, there are so many of us that we could topple this shit without firing one shot. We could have a bloodless revolution tomorrow if people reach just their intellectual component. The reason we have to fight so much is because there's so many dumb motherfuckers that act against their racial, their collective, their human, their class interests, and they can't even identify them. So yes, education is a component of it, and education and critical thinking is as necessary as being proficient with arms and ammunition.
Right. If we can imagine us outnumbering the rich and ganging up on the rich instead of this damn 8.
Right.
Oh man, we might be saying move a little faster towards the goal.
Right. And that's why if you and I got on here with some pop the balloon shit, if you and I were on here talking about these females and how they need to submit and how masculinity is under attack, we'd have 1,000,001 followers. If we were on here some Andrew Tate fresh and fit. I think in 2023, Andrew Tate was the most Googled man in the world. Because it's not because Andrew Tate got anything of value to say, but it's because the capitalist controlled social media, does not allow for these type of discussions to proliferate, but they also don't repress them because they don't want to create martyrs.
It's patriarchal.
Right. And Bobby E. Wright, when he would give lectures, he would talk about they don't care what I say as much as they care about how the people receive and what the people do with what I say. That's why somebody like the minister can go around the world calling the white man the devil and gutter religion and saying some of the most reckless, far out, anti-white shit in the world. But when they look at his larger ideology, he's a salvationist. Our salvation is coming from on high. So he's not revolutionizing people. He's derailing Black liberation. But he's looked at as one of the most militant, mean brothers and going to go down in history as that. So the ideology is off. And that's why the Prince of Pan-Africanism, he's all over. He's being flown all over the fucking world. That Charleston White character. Those people under this media system. So that's what we're battling against. And then the people on our side, the conscious revolutionary Black folks, they want to be dignified, they want to be right, but they don't care as much about winning as they care about being dignified and right. They don't want to get dirty or sully themselves, which really translates to me is the people ain't worth the effort.
Wow. No, we definitely worth the effort. Shit.
A lot of so-called Black revolutionaries act as though it's otherwise. So, you ready to open up And we went further.
You can open up. I gotta be to work at 10 o'clock, man. I'm
so we're gonna wrap this up quick, fast, in a hurry. I just shared the link. If you come on no more than a minute or 2 minutes, try to stay on topic. Shortcuts to Black liberation. Do you believe some of the shortcuts ain't really shortcuts? Blah blah blah. Try to stay on. But I'm gonna just go through some of these. Spirituality is not a science. Spirituality is not a science, and it's really obscene that spirituality and religion has suppressed and attacked scientists, philosophers, and critical thinkers for centuries, and then to turn around and try to claim it. If you apply the scientific method to spirituality, spirituality gets deconstructed. So there's no such thing as spirituality is a science. There's no such thing as the scientific method within spirituality. But you have a lot of religious and spiritual scientists, however they reconcile that. But I'm not going to let that lie. That's a lie. And I think even anybody that takes that, spirituality is not science. In fact, it's as far away from science as magic. That's like saying magic is science. James stepped away. So we're going to run through these. It also goes to how many revolutionaries were religious, I believe. Yeah, there are a lot of religious revolutionaries. But if you look at the religious revolutionaries, they were going against their doctrine, and very few revolutionary religious people, like look at Father Romero. He was a Catholic priest who became a revolutionary, and the Catholic Church denounced him. Even Martin Luther King, who by our definition wouldn't be revolutionary, but he was definitely evolving into a revolutionary. If you listen to read his last two books or listen to his speeches prior to his death. And the Catholic, the Baptist Convention, the mainstream church did not support Dr. King. We already know what the Muslim cult did to Malcolm X. So yeah, there were a lot of religious revolutionaries, but most religious people who become revolutionaries, they become ostracized from the religious authority. What's oppressive about the Tree of Life? I'd have to review it. I used to go to the Asar Society, but I'd have to review that. There is a lot of nonsense there. It is quite regressive, but I have to review that. I think that's a good question, and maybe we'll do. I'm gonna make a note. Maybe we'll do some shows on the.
Is that the 11 laws? That's not the 11 laws, is it?
I think you're thinking about the negative confession. No, the Tree of Life. I believe there's 12 or 13. I don't know. I got to get my copy of the Matuna text.
Tree of Life you talking about?
I remember when I was going to the Asar Society and taking the Tree of Life cultivation system and Tree of Life meditation system. And I remember like, man, this stuff it's interesting because it's our history. It's our ancestors, something our ancestors constructed outside of colonialism and oppression. But I remember, I'm like, this ain't it. But I'll have to revisit that. I'm gonna do.
Well, is that supposed to be like self-development, self-awareness, you know? Because I got the 11 laws on my. Yeah,
it's out there somewhere, but it's
11 laws of power.
Maybe it's not even oppressive. I could say regressive or delusional, but we can come back to that. That's a valid question, and I have to come back to that. Dr. Charles Finch said he saw a man in Africa turn water to wine and materialize an animal from thin air. Does Diallo believe in paranormal phenomena? No, I do not believe in paranormal phenomena, and I'm going to have me a glass of vegan biodynamic organic red wine this evening.
What are you talking about, some hooch?
That's what you call it. But let me tell you this.
I seen the motherfucker turn toilet water into goddamn wine too. Shit, throw some oranges and shit and let that shit ferment for a couple hours.
Well, can I tell you something? All wine was created from water. Wine is 85% water. So I can turn water to wine. Give me some fucking grapes. Give me a proper fermentation setup. I'll turn some damn water into wine. Shit, wine is 85% water. So yeah, all wine is water. It came from water. But no, I think Charles Finch is I think it's inappropriate for Charles Finch to make such a claim without any evidence. And I've read African Origins of Medical Science. I'm familiar with his writing. I think he's a good scholar, and I appreciate his scholarship. But if he actually said that bullshit, and I'm just going to call bullshit but if he has any evidence, and he is a formally trained physician, so he understands research, he understands the parameters for evidence, and it's not enough for him to just make the statements. If he has any evidence to back up this claim, I will apologize and retract my statement. But from here forward, I'm going to call bullshit on Dr. Finch. No, I don't believe that shit, and nor do I believe in the paranormal phenomenon. No, I do not until I have evidence.
That was crazy right there.
Repairing us via intellectualism. Absolutely. Yes, I know you were saying that for being facetious because we were talking about reparations. And yes, one of the biggest threats, they will give us weapons before they give us education. You have easier access to weapons than you do to the fucking truth and formal education in this country. They don't fear our weapons, but they do fear our mind. And I say all the time, we miss it. We say COINTELPRO, COINTELPRO, COINTELPRO. And it's counterintelligence program. So their program was set up to counter our intelligence. And all we ever talk about is the guns and and the assassinations. But so yes, they fear our intellect and what they care more about what the fuck we're thinking than anything else. Because they know correct action can only be driven by correct thought. So yes, we will be, if we are to be repaired, it will be through our intellect. Trying to be funny. Welcome to the show. Got a question, comment, criticism? Liam?
Yeah, really. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, really, everything that you're kind of going over relies on critical thinking and kind of a good bit of self-awareness, right? Like being woke is being self-aware. And it seems to me, and I'm always conflicted with this, it feels to me like so many people really don't, you don't know until you know. You can't really be aware of what you're not aware of. And often we come into our identity and we feel like that's who we're supposed to be. And the religious ideologies and general ideologies that people might have typically kind of embrace that. Like I almost feel like that is the norm or the natural way that the great ape has developed consciousness to trust and rely on the interpretations that it has. But then we look at critical thinking and the things that our ideologies, the self-aware per se, rely upon. It's like understanding the human bias, understanding that you can't trust what you think all the time, that we're a social species. We understand ourselves through each other. Everything we think we can only validate with others. And so it's almost like, how do you reach, or how can we even open a discussion when we have in front of that there's so much internal conflict or cognitive dissonance that we have to break through just to even talk about critically thinking about who you are. Is that even a thing that the person we're talking to, can internalize properly? Like, hey, you can change who you are based on what you believe and what you rely on as your, truth methodology. But if you don't have that, and if you never really considered that, and if your worldview says, the only reason you're special is because of who you randomly turned out to be, and thank goodness those are your strengths, it's everything we're trying to offer feels like it's harmful. And I don't see how to reach people without providing something to replace that. But the thing that's sitting there is a ideological delusion per se. And I hate to talk about, how people come into their understandings of the world like that, but it feels to me like trying to break through a delusion that says you're going to live forever and you get to have all these special things with, hey, the world's a very complicated place. We're apes on a rock and we don't know what's going to happen. We should think critically and be careful. Where's which one are they going to want? Which one is their natural understanding and the way that their brain works going to lean towards? It's going to go towards the one that feels better.
Well, that's more of a comment than a question.
It is.
I appreciate that. But
I think replacing whatever their delusion is with something, it should be the truth. But cognitive dissonance is so heavy that sometimes truth don't even, that they dig in more.
Yes.
Well, I'll go back to, because we're running out of time, but I'll go back to Bobby E. Wright. We are primates on a rock, but we're the most socially oriented and socially entrenched primates that have ever evolved. And the only creatures that are more socially oriented than us are like bees and ants.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said behavior is created and maintained by its consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So we as a collective, even if it's a small number of us who are conscious revolutionary Pan-Africanists, we need to start giving more energy and effort towards reinforcing and rewarding the behaviors we advocate and coming up with means to lay consequences for those we don't. That's
Absolutely.
Another component, and that works in conjunction with one's own identity and personal drives. So, but I'm gonna have to stop you there because we gotta run. I do appreciate you. And holler back at me, bro.
Absolutely.
Come again, though.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. That was. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, man. No, I'm not rushing, bro. I had.
I know you got to get out of here. I know we're coming up. We're actually over time.
Mm-hmm.
Try to speed run. Tafare's in the house. What's up, bro? Did I introduce you to Tafare, right?
No.
He was at the concert.
Okay, but you didn't introduce him.
I thought I introduced y'all. Next time.
I was moving around, man. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to go see that lady dance.
I could have introduced you to her. But she was leaving town that night, so.
Man, let me close my mouth, man. Oh my
what
God.
seminar are you talking about? Who is he talking? You or me?
What do you say? Watch the seminar.
Which seminar are you talking about? There's quite a few out there. You can be more specific.
I don't have one.
Yeah, you got to be more specific. Talking about my partner or my partner? Who that is? Anyway, let's go ahead. There's a lot more to get to. I'm sorry we can't get to everything, but we're here every Friday. I appreciate you. Usually, so you got any closing remarks before we get out of here? Because I want you to be able to get a little rest and pack your.
No. I got to be there at 10, man. I'm starting to work on Fridays now. I'll be working on. But I had them schedule me at 10 because I'm obligated, to this too. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's it. You know what I mean? I look forward to chop it up with y'all again next week.
Again, DM me the link to the anti-prop, because there's been a lot of anti-propaganda essays and discussions I've had. So, and my partner. So please let me know. That's not specific enough. But anyway, all right, y'all. Thank y'all for being here. We'll be back next Friday with the class con critiques. Don't ask me where Geechee is because I have no idea.
Hey, we need a dope intro, Skip. Skip. We need a dope intro and outro.
Hell yeah. So, all right, y'all. See you next time.
All right, y'all.